Good morning everyone, I am Adriana Arat and today I will discuss the module Professional Conduct and Ethical Standards, and I will discuss the module 1 to module 7. First is the meta-ethics. Meta-ethics is the ethical philosophy that analyzes the meaning and scope of moral values. The meta-ethics examines the fundamental nature, meaning, and origin of moral concepts like rights or right and good rather than judging specific actions. And the next one is descriptive ethics, the branch of ethics that deals with psychology, sociology, anthropology, and etc. The descriptive ethics studies how people actually think about morality, what they believe is right or wrong, and how they behave morally with no evaluation. And the next one is normative ethics. Normative ethics is the study of the moral course of action through practical meaning. Normative actions develops rules, standards, or theories to tell people how they should act morally and judge whether actions are right or wrong. And the next one is applied ethics. Applied ethics is this branch tells us how we can achieve moral outcomes in a particular circumstances. Applied ethics uses moral principles to address specific real-world issues like climate change, animal rights, or medical confidentiality. And the next one is the values. The property of values. Number one is the values are subjective. When we say values are subjective, we mean that the existence and the validity of values are dependent upon the feelings or attitudes of the subject. Values are subjective is that what we value depends on personal feelings and experiences rather than the external facts. The next one is values are objective. When we say values are objective, we mean that the existence and the nature values are independent of a subject. The values are objective. Certain values exist as universal standards, independent of individual opinions or beliefs. And the next one is values are relative. When we say values are relative, this means that values have intrinsic limitation and imperfection. Values are relative. What is valued varies by context like culture or time with no single universal set. The next one is values are bipolar. Values are bipolar. This means that values do not exist alone. They always exist with their counter values. Those values are it, her, positive, or negative. Values are bipolar. Most values exist as opposing pairs with judgment falling along a spectrum between two extremes. And the next one is values are hierarchical. Values are hierarchical. When we say values are hierarchical, we do not classify values, but rather we rank them. When we rank values, we establish order and importance among them. Values are hierarchical. We organize values in a ranking where some are considered more important than others. And let's proceed to ethics. What is ethics? Ethics is the study of human motivation. It requires that man desires that of which is good and act in accordance with that desire, solidly based on reasoning process essential to appropriate discretion dependent upon knowledge, rationality, and goodwill. Ethics is a system of moral principles that guides personal or social judgment about right and wrong, not enforced by law. And let's proceed to law. Law, consin- law is um, law is concerned with what we do, not what we feel. Requires what requires that we perform the required action regardless of our feelings toward such action. Logical instrument of social control that, for the most part, are not necessarily products of wisdom, dependent for their effectiveness upon legal procedures and complex rules of evidence. Law official is a official government enforce rules that define acceptable behavior and impose penalties for violations. Let's proceed to the human acts. Human acts. It requires man's rationality. It requires knowledge, freedom, and voluntariness. Elements of human acts done without knowledge, without consent, and involuntarily. Human acts is deliberate, voluntary actions performed by a person who is aware of the purpose and consequences. For example, choosing to help someone in need. And the next one is acts of human. It does not require man's rationality, done without knowledge, without consent, and involuntarily. Done without knowledge, without consent, and involuntarily. It does not need man's freedom and will. Acts of human is involuntary or instinctive actions that happen without conscious choice or awareness. For example, breathing, blinking, or reacting instinctively to pain. And the next one is empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person. It involves putting oneself in someone else's shoes and recognizing their emotions, perspectives. Um, Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings, perspectives, or experiences of another person. For example, feeling sad when you see someone crying because you can imagine their pain. And the next one is compassion. Compassion goes beyond empathy. It involves not only understanding and sharing another person's feelings but also a desire to help alleviate their suffering. Compassion is in empathy in action. Compassion is a deep feeling of care and concern for someone who is suffering, combined with a desire to help alleviate their distress. For example, not just feeling sad for someone who's crying, but offering them a hug or support. Let's proceed to the module 2, the notion of right. Right objectively is anything which is owed or due, taken subjectively as possessed by a person. Right is the moral power bound to be respected by others of doing, possessing, or requiring something. Right is founded upon a law, either the natural law or human positive law. Rights are vested on the individual person or on a group of individuals constituted by law as a juridical person, such as business, corporations, institutions, and associations. The notion of rights is the idea of a justifiable claim or entitlement a person has to something or to be treated in a certain way. For example, freedom and respect. And let's proceed to the kinds of rights. The kinds of rights are natural rights, human rights, civil rights, alienable rights, inalienable rights, the juridical rights, non-juridical rights, and rights of jurisdiction. Let's proceed to natural rights. Natural rights are those based on a natural law. The right to life, to education, to work are natural rights. Natural rights is innate rights believed to be given by nature or a higher power existing before and independent of government. For example, right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. And then the next one is the human rights. Human rights are those based on human positive laws, either those enacted by the state or by religion. Human rights is a universal, inalienable rights that apply to all people simply because they are human regardless of nationality, culture, or status. For example, the right to dignity, right to education, right to fair trial. And the next one is the civil rights. Civil rights are those promulgated by the state, such as the right to form associations, the right to run for public office, and the right to due process. Ecclesiastical rights are those promulgated by a church or sect, such as the right to attend religious services, the right to be instructed in the faith, and the right to the services and rights. The civil rights are the rights granted and protected by a country's law that ensure equal treatment under the law and participation in society. For example, the right to vote, freedom from discrimination, and freedom from speech. And the next one is alienable rights. Alienable rights are those which could be surrendered, renounced, or removed, such as the right to travel and the right to operate a business. Alienable rights is the rights that can be given up, transferred, or taken away with consent under specific legal circumstances. For example, property rights, which can be sold or seized for debt or utang. And the inalienable rights are the rights that which cannot be surrendered, renounced, or removed, such as the right to life, the right to marry, and the right to education. The inalienable rights are the rights that cannot be taken away, surrendered, or transferred. They are inherent to a person and universal. For example, the right to liberty, the right to life, and the pursuit of happiness. And the next one is the juridical rights. Juridical rights are those based on law. These rights are to be respected, permitted, fulfilled as a matter of justice. Juridical rights is the legal rights recognized and enforced by a court or legal system, with remedies available if violated. For example, the right to sue for breach of contract. And the non-juridical rights are those based on virtue rather than strict justice. The right of a worker to a wage is juridical, but his right to a clothing allowance is non-juridical. Non-juridical rights is moral, social, or cultural rights that are not formally recognized or enforced by law. For example, right to be treated with kindness, right to respect for cultural traditions. And the next one is rights of jurisdiction is the power of a lawful authority to govern and make laws for his constituents or dependents. A mayor has the right of jurisdiction over the municipality and its residents. A parent has the same right over his children. Right to jurisdiction is the use of force. The jurisdiction is the legal authority of a court, government, or body to make decisions. Enforce laws govern a specific area or group of people. For example, mayor has the right to implement a law only in the country where he is a mayor. And let's proceed to the characteristics of rights. Number one is coaction. It is the power inherent in rights to prevent their being violated and to exact redress for their unjust violation. Under normal circumstances, coercion is exercised by the courts of justice. In extraordinary situations, however, coactions may be enforced by the subject person himself, whose right is endangered, whose right whose right is endangered, such as in the case of self-defense against an unjust aggressor. Coaction is the use of force, threat, or compulsion to make someone act against their will, often relevant in legal cases involving duress or coercion. Let's proceed to limitation. Limitation is the natural limits or boundary beyond which a right may not be insisted without violating the right of another. One may not turn his radio when it is time for everyone to be sleeping in the dormitory. Limitation is the limitation of rights, a legal or moral restriction on the exercise of a right to protect the rights of others or the public good. For example, limiting free speech to prevent hate speech. And the next one is collision. Is the conflict of two rights so related that it is not possible to exercise one without violating the other. There is a collision of rights between the rights of demonstrators to freedom of expression and the right of pedestrian and car drivers to use the streets in pursuit of their legitimate activities. In theory, the conflict of rights is merely apparent since rights are founded on laws which cannot be contradictory. In practice, conflicts of rights are resolved through negotiation and compromise. Collision is the rights of a situation where two or more rights conflict with each other, requiring a decision about which right takes the priority. For example, the right of privacy versus the right of freedom of the press. And the next one is and now let's proceed to the kinds of duties. Number one is natural duties. Are those imposed by natural law, such as the duty to take care of our health, the duty to educate ourselves, and the duty to worship God. Natural duties is innate moral obligations believed to exist independently of law or social agreement applying to all people. For example, duty not to harm others, duty to help someone in extreme need. And the next one is the positive duties. Positive duties are imposed by human positive law, such as the duty to pay taxes, the duty to observe traffic rules, and the duty to vote. Positive duties, obligations to act in a certain way to benefit others or promote good. For example, duty to provide for one's children. And the next one is duty to donate to charity. And the next duty is affirmative duties. Affirmative duties are those that require the performance of an act, such as the duty of loving our parents and that of paying our debts. Affirmative duties, another term for positive duties, obligations to take active steps to support or protect others. For example, duty of a doctor to treat a patient in an emergency. And the next one is negative duties. Negative duties are those which require the omission of an act, such as the duty not to kill another person and that of not carrying deadly weapons. Negative duties are obligations to refrain from acting in a way that harms harms others or violates their rights, for example, duty not to steal and duty not to lie. The next one is the principles of human rights. The principles of human rights are made to point out that the international community must treat human rights in an equal manner, on the same footing, and with the same emphasis. Jose W. Jokno emphasized the validity of these principles that people cannot enjoy civil and political rights unless we enjoy economic, cultural, and social rights, any more than we can ensure our civil and political rights. Principles of human rights are the fundamental guidelines that define how human rights are understood and applied, including universality, indivisibility, and interdependence. The next one is universality are the rights that belong to and are to be enjoyed by all human beings without any distinction of any kind. It means that it is internationally recognized and that its basic core minimum must be observed everywhere. Universality is the principle that human rights apply to all people everywhere regardless of nationality, race, gender, religion, or any other status. The next one is indivisibility. Indivisibility, all the generations cannot be separated from one another. Indivisibility is the principle that all human rights, civil, political, economic, social, and cultural, are equal in importance and cannot be separated from one another. The next one is interdependence. Interdependence, there is co-equal in importance in that these rights are guaranteed that an individual can live decently and in dignity. Interdependence is the principle that human rights are connected and rely on each other. The fulfillment of one right often depends on the fulfillment of others. For example, the right to education depends on the right to freedom of thought. And let's proceed to the um, let's proceed to let's proceed to module 5, the foundations of police ethics. Professional conduct and ethical standards in the high degree of honesty are more essential for officers and members of Philippines National Police than for any member of the society. This is so because they are entrusted with the enforcement of their rules, regulations, and ordinances created by city or municipality and the laws of the land created by the Congress that guide the conduct of society. A policeman's violation or infraction thereof or his failure to enforce it dishonor the law and the authority he represents. The foundation of police ethics is the core moral principles: integrity, fairness, respect for human rights that guide police conduct and ensure they serve the public good rather than the personal interest or political interest. The next one is primordial police responsibility. The primordial police responsibility is the primary objective of the police is the prevention of crime. The policeman knew too well that he had committed his life to defend and protect the rights of the citizen and uphold the law at all costs. Primordial police responsibility is the primary duty of police to protect life, maintain public order, and uphold the rights and safety of all members of society. And the next one is limitation of police authority. The limitation of police authority is the primary as an upholder of the law must know its limitation upon him enforcing the law. Thus, he must be aware of the limitations which the people through law have placed him. He he must ensure that he does not pervert its true character. He must recognize the center of the democratic system of government, which gives a person or group of persons absolute power. Um, the limitation of police authority is the legal and ethical boundaries that prevent police from abusing power, requiring them to act only within the scope of law and with proportional force. And the next one is knowledge of law and other responsibilities. Knowledge of law and other responsibility is the policeman shall assiduously apply himself to the principles of the law, which he is sworn to apply. He will make certain of his responsibilities in the particular field of enforcement, seeking aid of his superior in matters technically or in principles are not clear to him. He shall make special effort to fully understand his relationship with law enforcement agencies, particularly on matters of jurisdiction, both geographically and substantively. Knowledge of law and other responsibility, the police must have a thorough understanding of laws to enforce them correctly, plus additional duties like community engagement, crime prevention, and ensuring due process for all. The professional responsibility, law enforcement officers and legal professionals have a professional responsibility to uphold ethical standards and conduct themselves with professionalism and integrity at all times. This includes adhering to codes of conduct, seeking continuous training and education, and holding colleagues accountable for unethical behavior. Professional responsibility is the moral, ethical, and legal obligations that a person in a specific profession. Professional responsibility is the moral, ethical, and legal obligations that a person in a specific profession must uphold to act in the best interest of their clients, colleagues, and the public aligned with the standards of their field. And the next one is accountability and oversight. Establishing mechanism for accountability and oversight is crucial to ensuring that law enforcement agencies and personnel are held accountable for their actions. Transparent investigations, disciplinary measures, and civilian oversight bodies help maintain public trust and confidence in the justice system. Accountability is the obligation of individuals or organizations to take responsibility for their actions, decisions, and outcomes to answer to others for their performance. And the oversight is the process of monitoring, reviewing, and regulating the actions of individuals or organizations to ensure they act in line with laws, ethics, and standards. Next is the role of law enforcement in handling victims and suspects. Victims, protection, and safety. Law enforcement officers are responsible for ensuring the immediate safety and protection of victims. This may involve securing the crime scene, providing emergency medical assistance if needed, and ensuring that victims are removed from dangerous situations. The second one is support and assistance. Law enforcement officers often serve as the first point of contact for victims of crime. They are responsible for providing emotional support, information about available resources and support services, and guidance on how to navigate the criminal justice system. The next one is investigation and evidence collection. Law enforcement officers are tasked with conducting thorough investigations into crimes against victims. This includes collecting evidence, interviewing witnesses, and gathering information to build a case against the perpetrator. And the next one is empowerment and advocacy. Law enforcement officers should empower victims by giving them a voice in the legal process, respecting their rights and advocating for their needs within the criminal justice system. This may involve referring victims to victim advocacy organizations or providing them with information on their legal rights and options.